G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast. Today we have a lot to discuss. First of all, we're going to be taking a look at potential coaching moves already being discussed in the AFL world. We'll be taking a look at a deep dive into our AFL Ladder Predictions as well. And in our World Sports segment, we'll be taking a look at the cricket, soccer and the NFL playoffs. But let's roll the intro and get straight into it. And then Rankin from the pocket, don't tell me, Isaac Rankin!
Yeah.
He's just got the license for a brothel.
Well, I think Gather Round's going to be AFL this next season.
It's at the handle at the back, Nick Dacos to get the pies home! He's done it! But as always guys, join with my brother in Jack as always throughout this off season. Hopefully you can be here for the regular AFL season, as we are going to be scheduling it out a little bit different next year. But
yeah, we'll make sure of it. I can just call it sick for work, you know.
Call it sick for work.
Because
sorry, I have to do a podcast.
This should be a full-time job, right?
Oh yeah, we're definitely full-timers. We should be ready to be full-timers at this stage.
Yeah.
Just one quick thing to announce before we get straight into it. I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. I forgot to mention it at the start of last week's podcast, but we do have an AFL Fantasy League running, which is on the code up top. We will be running an 18-player league at this stage, and if we get a lot of people joining in for this AFL Fantasy League, then we may open it up to an open league where I think you can have 100 or so people in that league. I think it's unlimited. But yeah, if you write that code up in the top left-hand corner right now and put that in your AFL Fantasy, you can join our league, and a grand prize will be a $125 gift voucher to the AFL shop. So if you want to get involved in that, guys, join the league right now. And we'll be doing an AFL tipping comp this year as well, as soon as the AFL tipping website is actually up. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like, the season starts in a couple of months, but anyway, we'll be doing an AFL tipping comp.
Be focusing on opening round like everyone seems to be at AFL House.
Yeah, I can't wait for opening round. Anyway, let's get into the episode, shall we? So, like we said at the intro, that I retook 6 times, by the way, but you wouldn't have known through the magic of editing. But there is some coaching news being discussed in the AFL world already, which is very surprising. Usually we don't hear coaching news this early, and it makes me kind of question how legitimate this report is.
Well, is it from our favourite journo?
I don't even think a journalist is actually
He's taking credit
put
for
their
this.
name to it. Yeah, I think it was just people are saying that it was reported in the Western Australian, like the newspaper.
Yeah.
So no one was put a name to it because of fucking how I don't know how true this is, but there is news floating around that the Dockers are keeping tabs on Luke Beveridge as a potential next coach. Now, Justin Longmuir is under a lot, probably at least top 3 most under pressure coaches going into this year. Probably with Ken Hinkley and probably them 2 are the most highest.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this stage.
Maybe Adam Simpson, but...
Yeah, but let's be honest, I don't think he's even... He is under pressure, but I don't even know if West Coast would sack him. They would, because the money. That's the only reason why he's still there, I believe. But anyway, he's probably the most under pressure coach, Justin Longmuir, going into this season, and not many people have any high hopes for Fremantle, and there are reports circulating of Luke Beveridge potentially going from the Bulldogs to Fremantle probably the end of this year, I would imagine. I think Luke Beveridge is out of contract at the end of this year as well. Yeah, he's a very under pressure coach of the Bulldogs. Look, when I first read this, I was very surprised, almost to the point where I don't believe it at all. It's very hard to take these sort of stories nowadays and just believe it 100%. I don't even think that Luke Beveridge would be a good option for Fremantle, to be honest. I don't know. Luke Beveridge, he has won a premiership obviously early on in his coaching career. He has got to another grand final in 2021, so there's a little bit of record to suggest that, you know, they've got a premiership coach coming. I still think if Fremantle, I don't think Luke Beveridge would be the option. What do you think of this story when you first saw it?
I thought it was fake in the reasoning, because it's a coach that's going from the Melbourne, Victoria, all the way to Perth. In a way, it's like it's a very big move for anyone to do.
I mean, this is very similar to Ross Lyon when it happened, obviously.
Yeah.
When he moved from St Kilda to Fremantle.
Yeah, I think that and it's also, like you said, it's very early in the year. It's like there's so much things that could play out. Like you
Yeah.
never know. Like you never know. Freo end up being in the
Yeah,
prelim
to
this year.
suggest,
You never know.
yeah, I mean, to suggest that, well, like, the Fremantle are already looking for a new coach is, I mean, if they are, which I don't believe this at this stage, maybe there's a little grain of truth to it, but taking it with a huge grain of salt, it's huge disrespect to Justin Longmuir to automatically looking for a coach. I mean, if they were looking for a coach, they surely would have done it at the end of the off season.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
the off season of 2023, not now. Like the reports are coming out. I do think that he is under pressure, and if it's halfway through the season and Fremantle are down around the bottom part of the bottom part of the ladder, I don't think he will be the coach in the year after. Let's just put it that way. So I mean, I get there is like a truth to it that he's under pressure, but to suggest that Luke Beveridge is the one that's like being looked at, I don't know. I think that Fremantle, it's very hard because, I mean, yes, he's got a premiership under his belt, Luke Beveridge, but his recent coaching history isn't that impressive.
No.
I mean, he got him to a grand final in 2021, but since then, the Bulldogs haven't been the greatest. Maybe a new change of scenery would help Luke Beveridge, who knows? Because I think, Luke Beveridge is under pressure at the Bulldogs right now. I just don't know. Bottom line for me is I don't believe there's much truth to it at all. I think they're going with the Clayton Oliver strategy of there was a disciplinary meeting for like Clayton Oliver and they spun that into he's leaving the club. I think there may have been talks that Justin Longmuir is, he would be very under pressure. So maybe they are just setting a couple of little feelers out to say, well, we do need a coach coming through. Is there any availability on Luke Beveridge at all? Because I do think that they would probably need a AFL coach that has already coached before Fremantle. But to be honest, could you name me 3 potential coaches to go to the Fremantle next year? I mean, there's a couple of assistants.
Yeah, but I think it's hard to say 3 because I just don't know if anyone. It's a very different job for Freo because it is like it is in Perth. Everything like it is very.
It's a club that's never won a premiership.
There's a lot of pressure on the coach that comes in.
Yeah.
And there's been no success.
Well, I mean, they made one grand final in their history. They lost it.
Yeah, so it's a very different job that does take you away from the heartland of Melbourne AFL landscape.
Yeah, it would have to take a coach that would, not desperately want to be a coach, but, this is their one chance, I would say, that, they're going to be a coach. I feel like I don't see a big coach a big person who's coached before going to them. I don't know, like a Leon Cameron or a Don Pike. Maybe a Don Pike, if West Coast were, because he's currently at West Coast. He went this year after being at the Swans. Maybe that would be an option, Don Pike. I wouldn't mind that for him. I think Freo fans would be happy to see if Don Pike would go.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's a lot of coaching prowess out there. Imagine Dean Cox going there. That'd be hilarious. That's just my 2 cents of this whole debate or talking point. I don't think there's a lot of truth to this. I think they've pulled a little bit of pluck of information and then have spread it into a potential coach looking at. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt at the moment. Maybe in a couple of months we'll see how this plays out. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about so far with that sort of that story. But as we mentioned at the start, we will be doing our AFL Ladder Predictions. Now, I did this last year on the channel. I think it was one of the first episodes I did for the podcast. I did my AFL Ladder Predictions, and I don't think I got one right. Now,
so we know our shit.
Now, obviously, we just do this for a little bit of fun. We're not doing it too seriously. Obviously we want a couple to be right, but at the end of the day, this is just a little bit of fun, just to look at some potential where teams are going to finish. This year we did use a website called Squiggle, which is actually a really good website to do this sort of ladder predictor. If you guys want to do it with your friends or whatever. Basically, they go through every single game. You can pick the margin of every single game as well. And it's really informative. And so I've done my ladder predictor. I'll go through mine first. Sorry to my brother. This this picture is going to go right in front of his face. But nonetheless, this is my AFL ladder prediction for 2024. So, you can see here I've got West Coast down the bottom with the 1 win. Also with North Melbourne, who just beat them on percentage. In 16th, I have Richmond. 15th, I have Essendon. 14th, I have Fremantle. 13th is St Kilda. 12th is Hawthorn. 11th is the Gold Coast Suns. 10th is the Western Bulldogs. 9th are the Giants. And then into the top 8, we have Geelong. In 7th is Port Adelaide. 6th is Melbourne. 5th is Adelaide. 4th is the Sydney Swans. 3rd is Carlton. 2nd is the Brisbane Lions. And up the top, being the minor premiers in my ladder predictor, is Collingwood. So I'll quickly move that. Now, I just wanted to go through a couple of reasons and talking points as to why I've got some teams in certain positions. I did also look as well. I forgot to ask you to do this. Oh, I did actually look for you. No, I didn't. Okay, so you haven't done the ladder prediction, but that's okay. I did actually have a look at the ladder prediction, my ladder predictions this year compared to last year. And at this stage, my biggest movers up, if my ladder predictor was correct 100%, would be that the Crows were my biggest movers up. They've gone from 10th in 2023, and my prediction has gone from 5th. And my biggest team to plummet is St Kilda, from 6th down to 13th. So the first team I wanted to take a look at was Hawthorn. Now, I think Hawthorn have had a lot of hype going through the off-season, picking up maybe Outtro, Gunston, Ginnivan. There's one more I'm missing. Can't remember who it is. D'Ambrosio, that's the one. But when looking through their fixture for this year, it's not the easiest draw, but they do have 4 games down in Tassie, and from what I've looked at, they've got a really good record down in Tasmania. So I think they can bank all 4 wins there. Yeah. So that's good for them. There are a lot of in the games that I've picked them to win in 2024. A lot of their wins are very close. So as we saw, Collingwood, for example, if in 2022 when they had that big run of really close games, if you win those games, those close ones, you can set yourself up to be a top 8 team. But if you lose them, you could be sitting down right at the bottom of the ladder. Now, I've given Hawthorn to win a lot more of their games than win a lot of those close games than losing them. So, but I did look at it. If Hawthorn were to win a few more, they could potentially find themselves into 8th spot, because 8th right now in my ladder predictor was Geelong, and Hawthorn are only 2 wins out of that. So if Hawthorn were to get close enough from Geelong, they could scrape into the 8. I doubt it, but that is a potential chance for them. Now, like I said, I don't think they'll make finals, but to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised. Now, when I'll go through all my talking points, and then I'll ask you for your opinion on a couple of them, and then we'll go into yours, because I think that'll be... Because yours is... I did look at yours because I got a picture up for it. They're quite different. A lot of, position-wise. I think most of the teams in the 8 and the 10, top 8 and the bottom 10 are pretty similar, but just the positions of both of them are quite different. Yeah. So, after that, I got a Giants. Now, the Giants in my ladder predictor are missing the 8 by 1 win, I believe. No, it's actually just on percentage. So, they are really close. Now... the problem with the Giants is they do have a couple of teams twice which are going to be hard to beat. One of them is the Bulldogs, one of them is Sydney, and another one of them is Carlton. Now, I've put Sydney and Carlton in the top 4, so I think it's going to be very hard to, if they can bank 2 wins against both of them, they make the 8. And the Bulldogs as well is going to be very interesting, because I've got them finishing around the mark as well. That's why I'm really... this could go either way. A couple of games that I've given the Giants that, they could lose. Down in Manuka Oval, in round 7, they've got the Lions. I've got the Lions just beating them there. A couple of games... They've got Carlton in round 17 down in the Sydney Showground, which is their home ground. And then in the final round as well, they've got the Bulldogs down in Ballarat. So there's a couple of games there where, GWS could snatch a win from them. But they've got a couple of games as well where, there's a couple of ones that could go either way. On the other hand, like they've got the Crows at Adelaide Oval, which is always a hard game. They did lose to West Coast in Perth last year. They do have them in Perth again in round 2, funnily enough. So the Giants, honestly, could go either way. I've got them finishing just outside the 8 on percentage for Geelong. And speaking of Geelong, in my predictions, they scrape into the 8 and they get back into finals. So at the moment, looking at their fixture, Geelong have got, I think, 9 games down in Geelong. And one of them is against the Giants, which they struggle against. I think the Giants have won, 3 in a row now? Or 2 in a row down there?
It's 3, I think.
3 in a row.
I'm pretty sure it's 3, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 3. Other than that game, which could be 50-50, I've actually given the Giants the win in my predictions. Geelong should win all 8 of those games.
Yeah.
That's what I've given them. So basically, they've got 12 wins on my predictions. They need to find 4 more wins in the season to make the 8.
Yeah.
So basically, that's all I've got for Geelong. They've got a lot of games at home. I think as well with the development of their grandstand, I think now they're going to have a lot more there. I think in round 1 they're supposed to play St Kilda at Academia Park, so they're going to have a few more there. Most of the games that they play down in Geelong are the bottom teams as well, so they usually beat up on them. They do have the Crows down there, so they have a really good record against the Crows down there. So I think that's going to be the way that Geelong are going to make it. They just need to bank basically 4 wins in the rest of their season somewhere else. Yeah. Whether that be at the MCG, whether that be away from home, they just need to bank 4 more wins. So I think that can be done.
Yeah.
And one of them obviously is Gather Round. So, Gather Round could be going either way when they play the Bulldogs in round 4. The next one is by the biggest movers, which are the Adelaide Crows. Now, I think the Crows, most people have them going up this year. I think it's pretty safe to say they were obviously robbed of making the finals in 2023. Sorry, I'm a Swan supporter. We did have 70 seconds, but at the end of the day, it's kind of got robbed, let's be honest. But yeah, I've got the Crows. They've got 13 games. They've got 13 games at home. They win all of them.
Yeah.
In my predictions. And in my other... They've got 16 wins I've given them for the whole season. They got 13 at the Adelaide Oval. One of them's Gather Round and a couple of showdowns as well. They win 13. I've only given them 3 wins for everywhere else.
Yeah.
So if they can win all their games at Adelaide Oval and then get 4 or 5 wins, they could get top 2. This is how good a season the Crows could have. They finished 5th on my predictions, but they also have a very good start to the season. They could and probably should be 4-0 by the first 4 games, and could honestly be, looking at their predictions, 8-1 heading into the showdown in round 10, and then having the Brisbane Lions they could be 8-1 after the showdown in round 8 with the Power, and then they also have the Lions in round 9. So round 10 they come up against the Collingwood at the MCG, which they nearly beat last year. The only game I have them losing in their first 8 games is against Carlton at Docklands and Fremantle at Perth Stadium. That's the only ones I've got them losing in the first couple of the first 9 rounds. So 2 games. But honestly, they could beat Fremantle in Perth. They didn't have a very good game against West Coast in the last round of the season. So I do give... I think Fremantle are obviously a better side than West Coast. That's why I don't think they're the best team travelling. So basically, I've only got them... that's the only game I put them underdogs against is Carlton in round 5.
Yeah.
So, and we've seen, if teams can get a good start to the season and get the momentum, they are going to be hard to beat the Crows.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So I've got them 5th at the moment, but like I said, I've only given them 3 wins outside of Adelaide in 2024. So they could easily bank 4 or 5 of those. If they can win half the games they've got away, so 11 games, if they can bank 5 of them, they're teetering on the top 2.
Yeah.
This is the goodest season the Crows can have. They've got a very easy, not an easy run, but they've got a very good start to the season, good half of the season.
And we've seen momentum from last season, how
well, we've got the Giants and Carlton almost to a grand final.
Yeah.
So, momentum can be everything in an AFL season. After that, we've got the Sydney Swans. Now, I've got the Swans making the 4 just, but they do have a pretty tough draw after round 10. So, I have had the Swans 8-2 going into up to round 10. A pretty good start for the Swans. They've got, the only losses I've given them are against Collingwood, and the other one I gave was not the Bulldogs. Who was the other one I gave it? Jesus, who did I give them the loss to? Maybe I only gave them 1 loss.
Bit of bias, I reckon.
Well, alright, in their first 10 rounds, the opening round's really bugging me. Anyway, in their first 10 games, that's what they're probably easy to say. They've got Melbourne at the SCG. I think they can win that. They've got Collingwood at the MCG. I'll give them a loss. Then they've got the Bombers, the Tigers, the Eagles, the Suns, the Hawks, the Giants, and the Dockers.
Yeah.
And they come to Carlton in round 10 with the game at the SCG as well. So, out of those teams, who are they playing that made the finals last year? The Giants, Collingwood, and Melbourne.
Yeah.
They got 3. And against the Giants, that could go either way, honestly. Sydney won, I think. They won one of them last year and should have won the other one. They fucked up and let them kick 4 goals in 4 minutes in the last part of the game, the Swans. But they got the Melbourne at home. They got the Giants at home. They've also got Carlton at home. And they've made it pretty much they're trying to get that fortress of Sydney back. So the only one I've given them a loss to is Collingwood. Now, I know I'm a bit biased, like you said, but I try to be as least biased as I can. But then, the last 6 to 8 weeks of the season, that's honestly where the Swans could either finish top 4, or they drop down to the middle of the 5th to 8th. That's where we're at the moment. So they've got the Crows in the final round as well, which could go either way. This is at the SCG, but that could honestly decide a 4th spot.
Yeah.
So that's going to be big for the Crows and the Swans as well. In the final 8 rounds, they've got the Crows in round 24, Bombers round 23, Collingwood round 22, Power round 21, the Bulldogs in round 20, Brisbane in round 19, North in round 18, and St Kilda in round 17.
It's a tough run home.
It's a tough run home for the Swans. So, if they can have that momentum at the start of the season, they could rocket up, or they could kind of stagnate. That's where I've kind of got the Swans at the moment going into 4th spot. So I've given them, Port Adelaide have a really good record against the Swans, unfortunately. The Bulldogs could go either way. Brisbane at the Gabba is almost impossible. They got Collingwood again. I did give them the win against Collingwood in round 22 at the SCG. But again, that could go either way. And then the Crows in round 24 at the SCG, that could go either way as well. So Sydney are definitely iffy. It's a hard one. But that's kind of what I've gone for there. And the final team I'm going to take a look at is Carlton. Now, Carlton, I've got them making in the top 3. So, they don't have the easiest start. But if they continue the form that they had in the 2023 finals, they won't have too many issues. From round 13 to the end of the season, I only see them losing 1 game, which is against Collingwood. Looking at their fixture after round 13. So, in round 13, they play Essendon, then they have the bye. And then from around 15 to 24, they have Geelong at the MCG, they win that. Richmond at the MCG, they win that. GWS in the Sydney Showground, I think they can win that. Then they've got the Bulldogs, North Melbourne, Port Adelaide. I think they win all of them. Port Adelaide's in Melbourne, by the way. They've got Collingwood at the MCG. That could go either way. And then the final 3 games, they've got Hawthorn at the MCG, West Coast in Perth, which they'll win. And then they've got St Kilda to finish.
Yeah,
I give them one loss, and even then they can beat Collingwood.
Yeah.
So, like we said, with momentum, who knows? So that's why basically I've given Carlton a massive run towards finals, and we saw they made it all the way to a prelim off momentum. Imagine if they had the double chance.
Yeah.
They could do anything in 2024, Carlton. So basically, that's all my ladder predictions and my kind of breakdown of it. Let's go look at now. First of all, is there any that you looked in there that you're like, that's not going to happen?
I think some of the Swans ones that maybe you're using your heart than your head, like some of the games late in the season, and we'll soon talk about mine where I think Sydney will finish.
So Sydney, you think, they're going to finish
14. But I looked at like what was it? Carlton. Your predictions.
I'm gonna put this mug away.
Yeah,
Sydney Swans mug.
Yeah, Carlton's fixture looks pretty good to run home.
Yeah.
What was a couple other teams you picked? You picked.
So let's quickly go up. So, Hawthorn just finishing 12th.
Yeah.
Gold Coast at about 11th-ish.
Yeah, I think that's about right. And
St Kilda down about 13th.
Yeah.
Melbourne in 6th. That may be the one that we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, let's get into your ladder predictions. So here is your ladder predictions. How about you go through them for us?
All right. So we go from bottom. We go with North Melbourne at 18th. We go West Coast with surprisingly 3 wins in 17th. Richmond 16th, 15th in Essendon, 14th in Fremantle. Hawthorn 13th, St Kilda 12th, Melbourne 11th, Gold Coast 10th, the Bulldogs 9th. Then we get into the top 8. We go the Swans at 8, Geelong at 7, 6 is the Giants, 5th is Port Adelaide. Then the top 4, we go with Brisbane at 4, 3 is the Crows, 2 is Collingwood, and I've got the Blues finishing top. Surprisingly, I don't. Yeah.
All right. So go through your talk. So what team have you started off with to discuss?
We'll go with the Crows. We'll go alphabetical order, I reckon. We'll start with that. Yeah. So I looked at the Crows' draw. I think, like you said, most of their home games they'll win. They will win all of their home games. I reckon I'll put them there. Yes. The only game that they won't win, I think, is the second showdown when Port Adelaide host the showdown. I think Port Adelaide will win that second showdown, but I think they'll win 12 of their 13 home games, which you can pretty much bank them to do because they have such a good home crowd. The ones away that they still, in my opinion, is going to be their struggle because it was their struggle and you still can't really trust them to win away. So
that will depend, obviously, when we look at them at the start of the season.
Yeah.
If they have a good start to the season away from home as well, then yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like they've got a couple good teams away, like some really shit teams in a way that don't really do anything. Like they've got Gold Coast round 1 away. They should win that, you'd think. They've got Freo away round 3. I think they should win that. They've got North Melbourne down in Tasmania. I think they'll win that as well. So I think they're going to win a few more games away. And like they've got then Hawthorn away. They'll win that. That's 4 already. So a lot of their away games this season against the really low ranked teams.
Yeah.
And I think they can win. If they don't really over anticipate, we should win that, and have that mentality, they should win them.
Yeah.
But so that's why I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to have a bit of a different season, that they're going to win those games away. They'll win all their home games, and they'll end up with about 4 losses.
And you've got them finishing 3rd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is surprising as a Port supporter.
Yeah, no, gritting your teeth.
Yeah. Then we'll go to Carlton, like you did.
You've got them finishing top.
Yeah, I've got them finishing top. I don't think a lot of people want to hear that, especially Collingwood supporters.
Yeah.
What are their 2 losses I've got for the year? I think they'll lose opening round against Brisbane at the Gabba, because no one beats Brisbane at the Gabba.
Yeah.
And
they got a 21 win streak.
They'll lose to, I think, who was the other one?
So you've got them on a huge run of wins, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. They'll lose. Oh, there you go. Collingwood round 21.
So you've got them. I got them losing that one as well.
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying they're going to go on a 19-game win streak, lose that game.
Yeah, I do. Okay. I actually do. I think that I've looked at their fixture. Like some of the games, like the games, the harder games they play. Like, even Sydney in round 10, I think they'll be a close game, but I still think Carlton will win. I just don't think that this... they're just... I think that the mentality is good at the moment. if they can get their players playing well, and as long as they don't get any injuries, I think is their thing for Carlton.
You think they've got the list to compete this
I
year?
do, yeah, I actually do, and I think
if they can get Mackay to fire on as well, that's definitely going to be another talking point. But yeah, you've got them winning 21 games out of the 23. So who else have you got there?
We'll go Gold Coast because everyone's talking about it, so why not keep going with it?
Yeah.
I've got them missing. I still can't trust them. I don't care what you can change your coaching style. You can change it all. I still can't trust that team to make finals.
Yeah.
You can't. They've got a lot of games that they could. But obviously, they have one of the easiest fixtures this season. So some of the games like the Crows in technically round one, whatever you want to call it, they'll lose that, and some of the you just can't really trust them in my opinion. And
the question is, can they make their home ground a fortress as well? Yeah. We've never seen that from the Suns. If they can start winning their games at home, because that's what that's gone to the trend we're going with here, especially with the interstate teams, with like the Crows or the Swans or whatever. Is like if they can win their games at home, how many more games do they need to win away?
Yeah.
So with the Gold Coast, for example, they need to start making their home ground a fortress.
Yeah.
Because they should be able to. Like, Brisbane have been able to make their home ground one of the most hardest teams to beat. I think they're the hardest team to beat on their home deck. Even though the Crows are up there, I think they're second best. They are the hardest team to beat on their home deck is the Lions.
Yeah.
And the Suns need to start bringing that, or else they'll never be competitive enough. Because they're never really... The Queensland teams are never really known to be a good team. Even like in the glory days, probably not the best away from home.
No. Yeah.
So the Gold Coast need to start making that place a fortress. So I get that. You had them finishing, 10th or 11th, I think, wasn't it?
10th, yeah.
10th. So pretty close. That would be their highest finish, I think.
At the I'll have them a game and percentage out of the 8. So they're not, but again they'll be close, but not there.
Yeah.
Again, I believe. And would you say it's a wasted season again? Probably. Well, I would. I'll be saying it's a wasted season.
I think we'll have to see how Damien Hardwick's coaching. I think this is going to be an interesting one with like Damien Hardwick because if they don't make the finals but their game plan has changed and it's looking a lot better and it's looking like something that can compete, like if he can bring that like Richmond mentality that they had through those glory years, if he can bring that mentality to the Suns and they start to change their way of playing, like, you know, they've got their like small forwards being really high pressure, their midfield, you know, playing really well, their defence being one of the best in the comp, which it can be, but they just can't, you know, that polish isn't there for the season, then I'll give them another year. But if it's the same stuff, you know, of them, you know, finally looking like they could be a team, like we saw throughout the year, throughout 2023, we finally thought the Gold Coast could actually do it. They could make the finals. And then they came up against, I think it was Collingwood. It was one of the big marquee games. They thought the Gold Coast, this is their moment, and they got beaten by 80 points.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about the Suns. If they don't make the finals, it's not the worst thing in the world, but there has to be a big change. They have to be winning these marquee games. They can't just be battering the teams that are below them. They need to actually be like, you know, because can you actually? I can't remember like many times when the Gold Coast have beaten a big team above them.
Not many times.
I honestly can't think of it. Like when has there been a time when you like the Suns have won an upset win? Not many times. Like they can beat teams around them.
Yeah.
And they beat teams below them.
It's
but they never bet, like, you know, maybe they've beaten the Swans a few times. That's probably the big talking point.
Richmond a few times, but that was also when last couple of seasons when they went down in a way. It's like, well,
they didn't beat Richmond very many times when they were in that 4-year period between 2017 and 2020. They weren't beating them then.
No.
So that's another thing for the Suns. Can they actually bank some big wins against some big teams?
Yeah.
Like when do they beat Collingwood? Not very often in those big years. No. Haven't been able to do it. They beat Brisbane last year. That's a good point. They did beat Brisbane, but that was the first time in 5-6 years they did it.
Oh, I think about 6-7 years.
The Q Clash wasn't even regarded as a rivalry,
yeah,
because the Brisbane Lions would just beat up on them every year. So, yeah. Have you got any more teams to take a look at?
Yeah, we'll go with Richmond. Everyone's talking about how they're probably in the bottom 4.
Yeah.
They've got 13 games at the MCG this season.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 games away out of Melbourne.
So they've got what?
So
Bunch of
five-
games
so-
with Docklands as well.
So 8, yeah, and then the rest are at Docklands.
And one of them's gather round away as well.
Yeah. So the first one's the opening round as well, which is away. So technically they got
after
4.
round 5, so after round 4,
They got
they've
3
got
games.
3 games away from
It's
Melbourne.
And the thing is that they used to make the MCG an absolute fortress, and they can't do it anymore because of the personnel they've got.
Yeah, they had a good
And
run.
They had a good run. We're not going to deny that shit.
Yeah.
But I've only got them to win 4 games this season.
Yeah.
And where we got what? One's against West Coast.
Big win.
One's against. They'll win Dreamtime, I think, this year against Essendon.
Yeah.
They'll beat North Melbourne at Docklands.
Another huge win. Oh, well.
But it's not a home game.
That's not a-
It's not a home game, but it's at Docklands. Alright, and there was one more. But and I think they beat Hawthorn at the MCG late in the season.
Okay.
So that's the 4 wins they get. And to be honest, they could, like I said, those 4 games, the one against North Melbourne at Docklands and the Hawthorn game at the MCG, they could actually lose those.
Well, they never got a good record at Docklands. I think they've lost they've lost 9 of their last games there or something.
Yeah.
So they haven't won. I think they drew one against Freo a couple of years ago.
Mm.
But yeah, they don't have a good record at Docklands, and the fact that they only leave Victoria 5 times, and after round 4 it is 3 times for the rest of the season is astounding. They should be doing something.
Well, no, yeah, but you look at it. So yeah, opening round Gold Coast, round 4 Norwood Oval, round 5 is Perth Stadium, and then it's what?
So from round 6 to round 24.
Yeah. So then they play the
23.
the Gabba round 10, Perth Stadium round 17, and Adelaide Oval round 19. Oh, no, 6 games. 6 games out of Adelaide, out of Melbourne.
Okay. And 2 of them are to Adelaide. And 2
So
of them
yeah,
are to
so,
Perth.
so 3 of them are in the first 6 rounds, and then 3 after that.
Yeah.
It's like they have a good run. They have a good run in Melbourne.
Yeah. So you would be thinking that they would be a genuine. They could be a genuine team to maybe scrape the 8, but you just don't trust the team anymore.
No.
They've got some top. They've got a lot of experienced players. They've got a lot of young players. They've got none really in the middle.
And they don't have a lot of... Yeah, and that's
don't have a lot
why
of
they
depth
don't-
either.
that's the thing. Is like, you have the experience, but if they get injured...
Or they're not performing either.
Yeah.
That's another thing, because last year, Dustin Martin was really the only... Dustin Martin, Taranto, were really the only 2 shining
And
lights.
Shea Bolton...
But even then, he was pretty on and off.
He came up late in the season, but... Yeah.
Do you have any information regarding Melbourne finishing 11th? Can you bring that up quickly? Because I've got to talk about that, because I think that's one of the big ones that people will be talking about. Because that's basically the team that you've got plummeting.
Yeah, I do actually.
So you've got Melbourne plummeting to 11th position.
So yeah, I've looked at... Yeah, well, everyone was probably shocked that I saw Melbourne in the bottom 10, probably 11th, so it's a huge decline of what they have. And I still believe that their off-season antics is going to hurt them in the season with what they've got. But their fixture is pretty tough to begin with. Like, they've got the Swans, Bulldogs, Hawthorn, Port Adelaide, and the Crows in the first 5 rounds. That's half the gather round.
And then Brisbane.
And then Brisbane after that, before they have their bye because they played opening round.
Yeah.
So that's a tough run. Like, they could lose to Hawthorn in round 3, round 2, whatever you want to call it. So they could be, I believe they could be none and 6.
Yeah, if they lose to the Bulldogs and Hawthorn.
They could be none and 6 if they lose to the Bulldogs and Hawthorn.
Yeah.
And
they could also be 2. I mean, not best case scenario, but to be 2 and 4 going into that little bye.
It's like
That's
they
not
could
the
have a
best.
shit start to the season, and with Simon Goodwin already having so much pressure on him, he would be oh my god, I couldn't. He would be worse than Michael Voss last season for Carlton.
Yeah.
The amount of pressure he's got.
Yeah, considering they've lost their last 4 finals.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of off-field antics over the off-season. which, they've had for a while now. I mean, obviously they had the Stephen May Milksham stuff the mid of 2022. They've had, obviously,
the Simon Goodwin drug scandal, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. And then the Clayton Oliver stuff throughout the season, going into the off-season as well. They've had a lot of stuff going on off the field.
Yeah.
And their on-field performances throughout the home and away season have been pretty good, but then when they've hit finals, they've just dropped off.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, they almost beat Carlton. I mean, if they did, no one would be talking about it. They'd been in the prelim final.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So after that first bye, whatever you want to call it, they do get an easier run, but you've also got teams like Geelong, St Kilda, Freo, who they don't really play well against the last couple of times.
Yeah, even in Victoria.
And then Collingwood, really, before their bye. They've got, obviously, some other big teams that they should win. Like, they should win, obviously. They should beat West Coast.
Yeah.
But sometimes, they could, to be honest, they could only have 2 wins before their official bye in round 14, after Queen's birthday. They could only have 2-3 wins if they're not careful with their run.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm a little being a bit harsh on them, but the reality is they could be 2 and what?
2 and 12, 2 and 10,
2 and 10, 2 and 12, 11.
Yeah,
that's not a good look. Yeah. That's not a good look for a team that's really.
They should be competing for finals. Yeah,
but
considering they got the best lineup of defenders in the comp, and then one of the best midfield lineups in the comp as well, and one of the best ruckmen as well.
To be honest, their run home's pretty good. Like, after that bye, they'll play Brisbane at the Gabba, Freo at Optus, and Collingwood to finish the season.
So 3 games that you don't really expect them to win.
Yeah, you don't really expect them to win. Either other way, they could go either way.
Yeah.
But this season to start is really tough, I think. And with all the scrutiny that still really hasn't been resolved with Clayton Oliver's stuff, it could go into the season. Yeah. And they could have a really tough start. And
like we've been talking about throughout this whole sequence of talking about the ladder predictor, the momentum's going to mean a lot for teams. So if your momentum's really low at the start of the season, it's very hard to claw your way back.
Yeah, exactly.
And then even if that's the case, if you do somehow claw your way back, we've seen teams be so puffed out or so exhausted from that push to basically every single game from round 12, 13, 14 being an elimination final, that when you actually do somehow scrape into it, you just get flogged. Yeah. We've seen that a couple of years ago with the Swans and Essendon a couple of years ago against the Bulldogs. Yeah. They got smashed. So those are the sort of things that can happen. And basically, I think we even talked about it last week with the pass marks. Melbourne need to be making, prelim semi-final, really. Yeah. They need to be winning finals. And for you, I have them outside the top 4. You have them outside the 8, which is a big drop-off. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's a big drop-off. So that's some big, ladder prediction sort of stuff. I think that mine's correct.
Okay. Says the Swan supporter who gave them wins against teams I don't think they'll beat. In Adelaide and Collingwood late in the season.
Yeah, well, their game against the Crows is that at Sydney.
Yeah, well, they don't. Yeah, but we'll listen to the fans instead of the umpires, isn't it?
Whatever.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it might be too harsh on them, but you just don't know what this.
Oh, it's your predictions.
Yeah, off-field antics, and I might be the only one in the entire country that has Melbourne lower than at 11. Yeah, but I might not be, and
I think there'd be a few people around really questioning. I think there's a few people probably questioning Melbourne this year. Yeah. To be fair, they should be a team in the top 4. If they had a kick forward to kick to, they would be. So I think that's not a bad thing to say. I think that was the biggest surprise that they were down in 11 for me, looking at it. But, looking at the reasoning why, I can see why you've put them there. But yeah, if you guys have some information, if you guys want to let us know what you guys think of your ladder predictions, if you're doing them, go to the Squiggle website. It's SQUIGGLE. Go there. You can do your ladder predictions. Post them. See what you're thinking. See if any of them resemble ours at all. They could be completely different. That's completely up to you. If you let us know about our ladder predictions, if you have any sort of differing opinions, or you think we're kind of correct, then let us know. But I think that's really all the AFL stuff we have to talk about this week. We are recording this a little bit earlier on a Monday because that's the only day you had off before Friday. And we weren't going to record a little bit later this week. We're going to try and get it out on time on the Thursday for you guys. But yeah, just before we move into our world sports segment, like always, what we try to mention, we do have a Patreon. If you do want to join the Patreon, it's linked below. We post. If you're on Patreon right now, you would be getting this episode a couple of days early. We do have our Twinners podcast releasing early as well. We're going to be changing that now, so because we kind of talk about news, like current news topics on the Twinners podcast, we're going to start live streaming that. But we may actually start live streaming this podcast like for Patreon only if there's enough talk about it or need or want for it. So if you want some sort of information about that, then let us know. We've also got like unreleased videos on there. There's, I think, 2 videos that are unreleased on there right now that you guys could go watch. Join up. You'll be a couple of minutes away from a couple of new videos. And I did announce, I don't want to say merch, but it's a new project that we're working on here, which I think is going to be it's pretty exciting. And we're starting that up in the next couple of weeks, maybe episode 50, maybe. 50. I think we'll try and get it for 50. We're trying to do a few things, but any sort of like upcoming announcements and stuff will always be announced there first. So, join the link below if you want to, and if not, that's completely up to you guys. But let's move into world sport. So, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about tennis because the Australian Open was here for the last 2 weeks, and I did not fucking know about it because I don't really care. Have you been following the Australian Open?
Yeah. A bit more than you, but yeah, it's really the only tennis tournament I get involved in because it's in Australia and it's on TV, and sometimes it's normally not combating with the cricket.
Yeah.
So you have nothing else to watch, but this year obviously the cricket was on the same time, so it was a bit different. I didn't really keep an eye on it, but late in the final.
Who won it?
So Sabalenka won for the women's side, and what's his name? Yannick Sinner won men's.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I want to say about the tennis is the glory days are over with the men's tennis. Mm-hmm. I could not tell you the top 5 right now in the men's. Like, not so much the women's, but even then, even the women's, I couldn't tell you the top 3. Mm. Could you tell me the top 3 of the men's and the women's right now?
This is only because I've watched it, so I know the seeds.
Yeah, so, okay.
So the seeds. So obviously I know because I watched the last I watched the quarterfinals. I watched the semi-finals.
I'll ask a different question then. Could you, like 4 years ago, who were the top 4 players in the men's?
The top 4. They were 4 years ago. It was always Rafa, Roger Federer, Novak, and Andy Murray. Yeah, those were your top 4.
Yeah, it was Nadal. Yeah. Those are basically your top 4. And the women's, you'd kind of say Azarenka, Sharapova, Serena Williams, and there'll probably be a few more as well. Mm. This is maybe 4 or 5, 6 years ago. But now, they're kind of all going, and it's a new wave of tennis.
Well, it was the first time in the men's final since 2005 that those 4 men players were in. Well, those 3, Roger, Rafa, and Novak were in the final.
Yeah.
It's been since 2005.
Novak, to be fair, got to the semis, didn't he?
Yeah, so he got knocked out, but but it was like, it's the first time since 2005 that neither of those 3 made it.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, that's not really what I want to talk about anyway. The reason why I want to talk about this is, you remember the name Basil Zemplis? Have you seen this?
One of the best commentators, I think.
Oh, I think he's fucking dreadful. Anyway, do you know his new career move that he's made?
Yeah, the mayor of WA or the...
Well, he's apparently going to be running for the Liberal Party's leader for WA, I think. Anyway, in his first press conference, basically, he got caught saying something pretty fucking stupid apparently in a media conference. They fucking deleted it, haven't they? Oh, you fucking cowards. Fuck me. Anyway, okay. Yeah. Fucking hell. Anyway, they've shut it down. So Basil Zemplis was about to go into a media conference or whatever, and a women's game was about to come up. He was talking to some guy next to him, and he said like, there's some tennis on tonight, isn't there? And they said, yeah, it's the women's final. He said, so that doesn't really matter then. Hey, bro, if you're running for politics, shut your hole. So everyone caught this, and it was so funny because he said that, and then the guy behind him who had the mic on and had the camera on him said, the mic's on. He's like, okay. And just was fucking, he just got fucking so shit on.
I don't like women's tennis because of the grunting.
Yeah.
Like, it's very hard to keep a concentration on the game that's got, it's like, that's annoying. So sometimes, but it's not fucking. Oh well, it doesn't matter because sometimes the games are like I watched some of the games and they were pretty good. Some of the matches.
Yeah.
That the women on the women's side and the men's side, obviously, but it's saying that on the women's side, some of the games are pretty good. Like it doesn't matter men or women. Like they are good games.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I think that, and this isn't coming from someone who's like the supporter of, not that we're like, we're not gonna get into women's sport, but anyway, not that we don't hate it, don't like it, we're indifferent about it, but I just think it was so funny that a politician like Basil Zemplis, you guys would know him if you've watched AFL, you would know him when he does his commentary for WA games he used to do. I don't think he shouldn't be doing them anymore.
He doesn't do them anymore.
Yeah, because he's running for politics now. Yeah, well, fucking what an idiot.
Yeah,
what a fucking idiot. Shut your hole. The camera, the mic's always on, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Shut your fucking hole. But yeah, so two people won the Australian Open. I'm so excited for you. Let's move into some cricket. And basically the only cricket thing we have at the moment is the fact that Australia have lost to the West Indies.
That's the only thing you got.
What else? England and
England beat India in India.
Alright, well, good on you. Johnny Besto left an absolute stitter on him, so that's the only clip I've seen of it. The only thing that I want to talk about, because I'm the only one that matters, do you have anything you can bring up about the England game?
Ollie Pope got 196, he got out, but yeah, he got 196, so he did. Well, it was pretty funny because the six previous innings he played, he got a combined 180 runs, I think it was. And then in one innings he gets 196. So yeah. So I think it's the first time ever that India had a 100-run lead and lost in India. So it's a huge thing for him. But the last time England had a 1-0 lead in India, they lost the series. So it doesn't really matter.
I do remember that. It was a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
I think I was
21
still playing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyway, I want to talk about the Australian game because
that was embarrassing.
It was embarrassing on the Australian side, but a great win from the West Indies.
Oh yeah, I wish
the fact that their bowler, Joseph had a massive game, basically breaking his toe. The day before was it? Yeah. Breaking his toe, he came out, bowled 7 wickets, went for a lot of runs, but he was going for the wicket ball every ball basically. Yeah. Brilliant bowling, knocked over Australia. Terrible performance from Australia. Terrible performance.
And the way that they acted after the game, like it wasn't, it was such a great result for West Indies cricket. They should look at themselves. They had to look at themselves. That was a game they should not have lost. The
fact that we don't lose the Gabba at all.
Yeah, and it's funny, the last 2 times sorry, not the last 2 times, but the last time we played India was at the Gabba, we lost. After like 27 years that we never lost there, and then twice in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And this is bad as a South Australian to talk about this, but Travis Head, the last 4 deliveries you've had, mate, you've been gone.
Yeah,
you've been gone. It's like it's the 3 previous ones, not the one that got the last one he got, the wicket he got. The 3 previous ones when he's nicking off his pads.
Yeah.
It's like learn to take it on the body.
He's always wanted to get the bat on ball.
He does, yeah. But that ball that he got to get for a king pair, like that was a beauty. That was an absolute. It was a beautiful delivery.
They were on the run too. I mean, 9 runs to go. The Joseph delivery on Hazelwood was brilliant, and the way that they celebrated.
Did you see all those? Like, I've seen a video of every call from like radio and.
I did see that come up. I haven't watched it yet though. But
yeah, it's a good watch, that one. That when you see every broadcast relive that moment, and their call on it, which was pretty good. And seeing like the players like Ian Bishop and Brian Lara, after the match, like you just knew how much it meant to them players because they knew what Test cricket's about, and how much of a disappointment it has been for West Indies cricket for a long time in Test cricket. So it was a beautiful moment to see that it meant so much to those players that.
Yeah, I think it's amazing from the West Indies. Australia, very fucking bad performance. They should have won that. They should never have be losing to the West Indies. I know it sounds disrespectful to the West Indies, but they have not been that good a team for years in Test cricket.
Yeah.
It's not like this is news.
And especially after they were here last summer. It's like, yes, it was two different teams, but the team that came last summer was better, more experienced.
Yeah.
And this team won a Test match against a team that won that's had a brilliant 12 months of cricket.
Yeah. And this team didn't change much from the team that played for Pakistan. In fact, I think it was only one change, wasn't it? It was just Green for Warner.
Yeah.
I know they did a lot of shuffling, obviously. Steve Smith was the only... he survived the whole innings.
Yeah.
Do you think that makes a difference?
I think it does, but it's like, well... Like, there's a lot of scrutiny going to be put on him until he gets 100, I think. And the thing is also, because Cameron Green's at 4...
That's what I was going to talk about. Yeah, Cameron Green's not a number 4.
At the moment, he's not playing at international level at number 4.
He doesn't play Shield cricket at number 4.
Yeah.
Oh, he does play at number 4.
And he dominates. But it's sort of like when a rookie player plays at in football at Sandford level, dominates every match, but comes into the senior side and you don't see him. It's the same. It seems like the same at the moment that he's struggling at 4 because he's got so much pressure on him. Oh well, Steve Smith's moved up to the top. 4 is the prime position, and I'm not performing. And he has the same problem that he did when he was batting at 6. He's so tentative when he first starts.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, I only watch the highlights, but every single time Cameron Green was batting, every single time they were like, oh, he's been very tentative early,
Yeah.
he's been pretty shaky, every ball looks like he could get out. He got up to like 25 and then got out or something, and it's like, yeah, he's not getting himself settled.
No.
And if you don't settle yourself, especially in batting, you're going to get yourself out.
And it's just like, well, what do you... He's like, yes, he's still young, but he's also had a lot of matches at it. He's had more than some of the openers that were considering opening.
Yeah.
Like Bancroft and Harris and Renshaw.
Yeah. Do you think it does make a change, like, for opening now, or do you think they will reshuffle the order going in? Because the next one's against New Zealand
in a couple of weeks. The thing is, I don't think they will because it's only 2 test series, and we don't play any more Test cricket till next summer against India. So we don't have. I don't think you want to change a side like that because you can't really change it after 2 test matches.
Yeah.
You got to give him you got to give them 4 matches constantly to see how it goes, and it's going to be interesting if they don't both fire, in New Zealand what they do.
Yeah.
Because they got one in March.
Fucking cat. Sorry, just keep going. It's alright.
Yeah, they've got a Test series against New Zealand, but then they've got an 8-month
hiatus from Test cricket. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things that could change between that.
Yeah.
Then and now. So
it could be injuries, could be anything. Yeah. That's basically all the cricket stuff I wanted to talk about. Let's move into a bit of soccer, and probably the biggest news to come out of this week from the soccer front, especially in English soccer, was the fact that Jurgen Klopp has decided to step down as Liverpool manager at the end of the season. Now, this was kind of I did not know this was going to happen. I was shocked when I first heard this.
I was shocked. I could not believe he decided it.
I think it's good to see that he's also now. Obviously, this truth could be broken because a lot of things nowadays could just be broken when money's been thrown at you. But he has said that he won't manage another English club no matter what. So I think that is good. He hasn't said he's going to retire from managing. I think he'll come back. Obviously, you're a Liverpool fan. What were the first thoughts about it?
It was shock. It was utter shock. I just didn't. There's been rumours for a long time that he's tired in a way and English football is a very tiring role to be a manager in.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's so many different games that you're playing every week.
Yeah. So you're playing 3 different cups, especially for a team like Liverpool. They're playing in a Champions League mostly, or a big European one. They're also playing in 2 local cups, and then they're playing in the league.
Yeah, so it's very tiring, and it was he's won, I think, 7 titles at the moment. We're technically still in all 4 competitions at the moment.
Yeah. So final in the Carabao Cup, they are in the FA Cup still.
Yeah.
Premier League, they're up the top, and Europa League,
still
round of 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Liverpool are every chance.
Liverpool,
they're going to win the quad, obviously. They're going to win the
yeah, that's
quad.
why now see now it's like we just need a bit more motivation to finally win it.
Yeah, he'll win it. It's like a going out of business sale. Like he's getting everyone out, and he's like, oh no, don't worry, guys, I'm staying.
Yeah.
No, I think that's perfect.
It would be the fairy tale finish. It would be, but it'd be lovely to see. But yeah, I mean, he's given so much to Liverpool for what I think 2015. I think it was. I should know that.
Well, considering they were not a rival, but they were a middle team. Yeah, they were so far from their glory days that they had in the early 2000s or whatever. And then he came to the club, kind of getting them to the point where they're like, they needed someone to get them back to where they once were. And they had Brendan Rodgers beforehand, who just couldn't get him. I mean, they obviously had that close Premier League season, but Gerrard fell over. Demba Ba ran through and kicked the goal. Yes. Anyway,
so he got us back to where Liverpool did need to be in a way, and he gave us some great highlights, and just as a manager, not just as Liverpool winning titles, but there was some good moments that he's always given to Liverpool.
Yeah, and he's always been like a very charismatic person. He's always ridden with the punches. Every goal scored against them, he always looked disappointed when they score a goal. He's one of the biggest celebrators, one of the most animated managers that I've ever seen, which I think is really good. Who do you think manages Liverpool next? I've heard Xavi Alonso is a big talking point.
Everyone thinks it's Steven Gerrard.
It better not be
I don't think Liverpool should go down that route.
So he's currently managing in Saudi Arabia. He managed I think it was Rangers in Scotland. He's currently managing in Saudi Arabia somewhere. I don't know who. But I think Xavi Alonso would be an interesting one. He's obviously currently managing by Leverkusen and they're still yet to lose a game since I think it's the start of the season. I don't know if they've lost anywhere else. But yeah, he's one of the talking points so far. I think Thomas Tuchel as well has been mentioned. If you had to pick one, I don't know. Have you have any thoughts about who you should be potentially looking at?
Not really. At the moment, not really.
Yeah, it's so raw. It's so raw.
Yeah. I'm shedding a tear at the moment. Yeah. No, I just think that Liverpool aren't going to make the decision until half the season, but they might keep an eye on managers at the moment. But they're not going to do anything until the season finishes. And Liverpool still have 4 chances at cups. So,
I think one last thing to mention as well. How many times have you seen an English manager just decide to finish their job?
Not
many. It doesn't happen.
It doesn't
I think the last one would have been Sir Alex Ferguson.
Maybe Arsene Wenger.
Did he? Oh, yeah, I guess that's true, yeah. But that's probably the last two. Only those. And then you got to remember, those guys were like legends of their club too. So Jurgen Klopp will definitely go down in the history books for Liverpool. He'll probably be their most ever favourite.
He's the person who gave us our first Premier League title, a first English title in 30 years.
Yeah,
that's what Liverpool were waiting for. That's what all Liverpool fans wanted, was the league title back.
Yeah, and the fact that he got them to 3 Champions League finals? 2, definitely.
No, 3. Yeah, 3 Champions League finals.
I mean, he brought them back from a club that was a mid-table, mid-team in England to back to prominency.
Yeah, and so
I think it's just that's really the only thing I wanted to talk about in soccer this week. But I think it's even though I'm a Chelsea fan, you always got. I don't think many people hated Jurgen Klopp much. I think everyone had a soft spot for him. Everyone was when Liverpool scored and the camera would pan to him, you just always have a little bit of excitement.
Yeah, and the one moment I always remember was when the Merseyside derby, when Liverpool scored late in the game and he runs onto the field and gives Alisson a hug, and he's like, he got carded for it because he's not supposed to do it, but he just didn't give a shit. He didn't give a shit, and it was one of the best moments, and it was a memory I will always remember.
Yeah. And I think one thing as well is he always mentioned, even when he took the job, that he always loved the club.
Yeah.
So from the beginning, he always loved Liverpool, and that's really good to see that, you wouldn't see that nowadays. Many managers going to a club, I can't remember a person going to Chelsea and going, oh yeah, I've always wanted to be here. It's like, no, you're getting the paycheck, bro. Or, even like even Manchester City, like Pep Guardiola when he went there, I don't think ever mentioned like, oh, he wanted to go to such a big club because he obviously has been to many.
Yeah.
And even Jurgen managed a few big clubs before he went to Liverpool. Obviously Borussia Dortmund by Leverkusen, but he was so excited to join Liverpool when he got onto he got like his favourite team to the best team in the world. Really, if you win the Champions League, you're the best team in the world.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I know it's the European Cup, but if you win the Asian Cup, the AFC Asian Cup, you're not the best in the world. So yeah, anyway. Alright. But finally, guys, let's get into our NFL chat. Now, obviously, the playoffs happened today for us. First of all, the Chiefs upset the Ravens. Shocked. It's probably the first word that came to mind when I saw this. The Ravens, again, they just haven't been able to get to the final hurdle.
They shot themselves in the foot all day. The penalties that they took the game away.
Yeah, the amount of I saw a couple of them, like that one off the offensive line who just charged in for no reason.
Like, even on the commentary, it's like, yeah, you can give away the penalty, the flag, but he didn't have to charge him to do it. Yeah. Like, because it was given away as an unnecessary roughness, 15 yards.
Yeah,
what they did was to give him a false start and give him an extra 5 yards and get some extra downs. That's all it was, because it was a 1st and 5. They wanted to give it back to a 1st and 10.
Yeah,
and
he just ran through it.
And he just ran past him. He was like, what are you doing, mate?
Yeah.
And then Zay Flowers, he gets a great 30-yard plus reception, and then he taunts the guy.
Yeah, that was...
It's like, what are you doing?
But to be fair, look, I did see that, and I was like, you shouldn't do that. That's been a rule for the NFL for a while, but come on.
Yeah, but I was like, but what he did, it was obviously going to be a taunt as the flag. It was always going to be. It's like, he had a 15, and then after that, so he goes back 15 yards, so I think like 25 yards to their line, and then he fumbles it right on the line.
Yeah.
I was like,
right.
And then it was like, and then you just knew, at that moment, you just knew the game was over.
Yeah.
It just didn't matter what the Ravens did. They just couldn't get over the hurdle, and they just couldn't do it.
And it's happened again. I mean, there's been many times where they've made the playoffs as like a really big favourite, and they just haven't been able to make it to that final hurdle for quite a while now. So Lamar Jackson can't make it again, but again, the Chiefs didn't really have a good home and away season. I mean, 11-6 is really hard to say that. Are pretty poor, not the best, but they've done better before.
Yeah,
and no one really saw this coming. I mean, they beat last week. Who did they beat?
Bills.
The Bills, and that was an upset because everyone expected the Bills to win, including you.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But you didn't. The Chiefs would win this week.
No, I didn't. But they're good. I mean, big win for them, and at half-time of the Detroit game, I thought maybe there was going to be 2 upsets coming. But the 49ers fought their way back. And
they look good, the Detroit Lions. I thought maybe they were going to go for the fairy tale.
Well, at half-time, it was 24-7. They had a big chance. And then it got 24 all at the end of the third quarter, because of the 49ers scoring 17. So 2 touchdowns and a field goal. They were... I don't want to say they were a bit lucky, but... Yeah, I mean, if the Lions held up a bit more, maybe they would have had more of a chance. Goff could have done a little bit better. 25 completed passes over the 41. Probably could have done a bit better. Brock Purdy had a really good game as well. I think he had very good receiving yards as well. Yeah, he ran 48 yards just as a running quarterback. That's really good as well. McCaffrey's having a massive season. But yeah, the 49ers have made it to the final again. And the Chiefs versus the 49ers. I think a really big matchup for the Super Bowl. Now, obviously, this happens in 2 weeks' time because they have the Pro Bowl next week, I believe. I don't know how much of the Pro Bowl I'll be following. Do they even have a game anymore? I think they just have the skills competition.
It's flag football now.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's because of the Olympics they're bringing that in, but that's what
I think they just don't want to they don't want to have to see players injured because you get paid so much fucking money.
Yeah.
They don't want to do it. Even though when I've watched the last Pro Bowl I watched was in 2020 or something, 2019 I think it was. Oh no, it would have been the start of 2020 I think. But I remember it was just they did not want to touch each other.
Yeah, they don't.
But I mean, it's fair enough. I don't even know why they have defenders, but I think it's probably better than flag football. But anyway, to the Super Bowl, February 12th, Monday for us, Sunday for all the ones in America. Who do you think will win? It's a very hard call. Obviously, the Chiefs have had that. What?
You keep going.
Okay, keep on going. All right. The Chiefs obviously have been there before many times. They've got Mahomes at the front.
Mm.
They look like they've kind of sorted out their problems that they've had throughout the season.
Their receivers are actually taking it.
Kelsey's starting to play well.
He must not.
But the 49ers, obviously, probably been one of the better performing teams of the whole season. In the NFC, really, they were the top seed in the NFC, I believe. So they went all the way. The Chiefs, they've kind of came, not out of nowhere. Like, when the Chiefs are in the playoffs, it's hard to beat. They're kind of like the Patriots or in the past or the Bucks the last few years of Brady's career.
Mm.
You never really count them out until the final moments.
Yeah.
So, who are you picking for the at this stage? It's pretty early.
I haven't said them all season. I've been giving them so much shit all season because they're receivers. The Chiefs will win.
You think the Chiefs
and
will win?
I think it's also because the 49ers, yes, they've played good post-season football, but they've had to come back from a deficit the last 2 weeks against the Packers and the Lions.
Yeah.
So they're not playing the best at the moment, and I just think at the moment we've seen from Mahomes, Kelsey, and their other receivers, they get back into form, and their defense is also holding up at the moment as well.
They're showing up at the right time.
Yeah.
I think it's the main, big talking point as well. I will go the 49ers. I think that they've had the better season all round.
Mm.
I think when a final comes to it, I do think they are the better team. I think they got better on defense. I think they can lock down Mahomes a bit more. I think they can be better on the receivers. But look, it's hard to go past the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They obviously have the record of Super Bowls before, and it's going to be very hard. I do think the 49ers will win, but I do get where you pick.
I think it could be a pretty good game. I think it'll be one up there with one of the great games, I reckon. But they can you always say that. You think, these two best teams, but I think this one could be a good one.
Yeah. That's going to be happening in a couple of weeks, guys. That's all for today's Boundary Riders podcast, episode 48. Thank you for watching or listening. If you do listen on Spotify, leave us 5 stars and leave a follow as well so you're notified on every single episode. On YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like. Thank you for listening and watching. We will catch you all next week.
See you later, guys.